6 of the galaxy's most powerful predators scoffed when they saw the tiny monsters on Earth. They believed no one would dare stand against them. Then a snowflake fell, carrying with it a small beast, and all their pride collapsed in a battle no one had ever witnessed before. Commander Zahai stood on the observation deck of the Nexus Prime Station, his blue scales gleaming under the artificial light. He examined the holographic projection of Earth with contempt in his reptilian eyes. The year was 3247, and the Drakari Empire's most accomplished hunter was preparing for what he considered a routine hunt. "Such a primitive world," he hissed, gesturing toward the hologram. "Look at these vast forests and plains. What could possibly challenge us there?" Behind him, secured in an energy cage, Lieutenant Jake Morrison watched silently. The human intelligence officer had been captured 3 weeks earlier near Jupiter while collecting data on Earth's defenses. His face remained stoic, but inside, rage simmered as he listened to the aliens discuss his homeworld as if it were nothing more than a game preserve. "The extraction teams have identified several potential hunting grounds," reported a subordinate, pointing to highlighted regions across North America. "We've cataloged their largest predators, but they seem underwhelming." Around them, the Nexus Prime Station buzzed with activity. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy had gathered for the annual Galactic hunting games, where 6 dominant hunting species competed for glory. The station's docking bays were filled with ships of all shapes and sizes, their hulls adorned with trophies from countless worlds. Jake studied the other alien representatives gathered around the hologram. Each species looked more terrifying than the last. Chitinous exoskeletons, crystalline bodies, tentacles, and forms that defied human comprehension. They were the apex predators of their respective worlds, now united in their quest to hunt on Earth. The massive hologram shifted to display Earth's wildlife: lions, tigers, bears, wolves, and sharks. The assembled hunters laughed dismissively. "They're just weak biological machines," Zahai declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Not even worth the energy expenditure." Jake's fingers gripped the bars of his cage, knuckles white with tension. He was beginning to understand the aliens' intentions. Earth wasn't being invaded. It was being turned into a hunting ground. Gulthar, the representative of the Vorak species, leaned forward. His massive frame, easily 3 times the size of a human, cast a shadow across the hologram. "On Vorak Prime, creatures 50 times our size are mere playthings," he growled, mandibles clicking with amusement. "Perhaps we should simply round up all these deer and rabbits for target practice," suggested Kretok, of the Mantis Collective, his insect-like appendages twitching with excitement. "It would save time." Jake noticed how the alien hunters spoke about Earth's predators, with dismissal, with mockery. But he also recognized something else. They had no idea what they were walking into. His years as a forest ranger before joining intelligence had taught him one crucial lesson: never underestimate what seems small and harmless. As the meeting concluded, the hunters departed to prepare their ships. The 6 species had drawn lots, and the Drakari Empire had won the honor of leading the first hunt on Earth. Jake was escorted back to his holding cell, but his mind was racing. He needed to escape, to warn Earth about what was coming. 3 days later, the hunting fleet descended upon Earth. Their massive ships took position over North America, deploying energy barriers to create controlled hunting preserves across Canada and the United States. Initial landing parties captured specimens of Earth's largest predators for study: grizzly bears from Yellowstone, tigers from reserves, great white sharks from coastal waters. The aliens were methodical, efficient, and utterly confident. Commander Zahai personally led the extraction of a pack of wolves from northern Montana. "Primitive pack hunters," he commented, watching the animals pace in their containment fields. "Their coordination is impressive for such simple creatures, but they lack power." Meanwhile, In a detention area aboard one of the smaller vessels stationed near Yellowstone National Park, Jake Morrison saw his opportunity. The alien guards had grown complacent, convinced that their human prisoner posed no threat. During a shift change, when attention momentarily lapsed, Jake managed to disable the energy barrier of his cell, using a technique he'd observed during his captivity. The forest ranger training that had once seemed mundane now saved his life. Jake slipped through the ship's ventilation system and made his way to an emergency escape pod. Within minutes, he was plummeting toward the Earth's surface, crash-landing in a remote section of Yellowstone's northern range. Disoriented, but determined, Jake trudged through knee-deep snow, putting as much distance as possible between himself and the crash site. He knew the aliens would come looking for him, but he also knew these forests better than they ever could. After 2 days of exhausting travel, Jake encountered a small resistance camp hidden in an abandoned research station. There he met Dr. Sophia Watkins, an ecologist who had been studying predator-prey relationships in the northern Rockies when the aliens arrived. "They've been taking all the large predators," Sophia explained, showing Jake the data she'd collected on alien movements. Bears, wolves, mountain lions, anything over 200 pounds. Captain Alex Rodriguez, a former U.S. military officer who had joined the resistance, nodded grimly. "They're systematically emptying the ecosystems of apex predators. But why?" "Sport," Jake said flatly. "I was on their command station. This is all a game to them, a hunting competition. They think Earth's predators are weak, unworthy opponents." Sophia's eyes widened. "They're judging by size?" She laughed, a sound that contained no humor. "That's their first mistake." Over the next few days, the resistance network grew. Using old radio equipment, they established contact with other groups across North America. Reports came in from all directions, alien hunters setting up camps, capturing animals, and occasionally engaging human military forces that dared to challenge them. "They're not invading," Jake explained during a strategy meeting. "They're here to hunt, not to conquer. That might be our advantage." Sophia pulled up images on her tablet. "They're focusing on large predators, but they're completely ignoring the smaller ones." She showed footage of alien hunters walking past a Wolverine without a second glance. "They don't realize that some of our most formidable predators come in smaller packages." "What are you suggesting?" Rodriguez asked, skepticism evident in his voice. "I'm suggesting we let nature fight back," Sophia replied. "The Wolverine, for instance. Pound for pound, it's one of the most fearless and tenacious predators on Earth. They've been known to drive off bears and wolves many times their size." Jake leaned forward, interested. "I've seen Wolverines in action during my ranger days. They're relentless." "Exactly," Sophia nodded. "And the aliens are dismissing them because of their size. It's the same with honey badgers, army ants, and dozens of other species. The aliens have no idea what they're overlooking." As winter deepened, reports came in that the 6 hunting parties were growing frustrated. They had captured and hunted Earth's largest predators with disappointing ease. The challenge they had expected was nowhere to be found. "We're relocating northward," Zehai announced to his hunting party. "Sensors have detected smaller predatory mammals in the northern forests. Perhaps they will provide some minimal entertainment while we wait for the main event." The Drakari commander led his team deep into the Canadian wilderness, setting up a hunting camp near the edge of the Arctic Circle. The other 5 hunting species established their bases nearby, each determined to prove their superiority over Earth's wildlife. Jake, Sophia, and Rodriguez had relocated as well, following the alien movements through their resistance network. They established a hidden observation post just 3 miles from the Drakari camp. "They're getting bored," Jake observed through binoculars. "That makes them dangerous, but also careless." Sophia was reviewing data on her tablet. Our scouts report they've been scanning for Wolverines. Something about their movements caught the aliens' attention. Good, Jake smiled thinly. Let's make sure they find what they're looking for. Using their limited resources, the Resistance began a campaign of misinformation. They planted traces and tracks, leading the alien hunters deeper into Wolverine territory. All the while, they collected information on alien weapons, armor, and tactics. Their armor is impressive, Rodriguez noted after observing a hunting party. But it has weak points at the joints, and their energy shields don't extend fully to the ground. They're designed to stop projectiles, not burrowing animals. 2 weeks into the northern expedition, Gulther of the Vorax expressed his frustration during a meeting of the hunting leaders. These Wolverines you speak of, he sneered at Zehai. Are they truly worth our time? They're just scavengers, barely worthy of notice. Intelligence suggests they are unusually aggressive for their size. Zehai replied calmly. But I agree. They hardly seem worthy opponents. Let's settle this matter quickly and move on to more promising hunting grounds. The next morning, all 6 hunting leaders assembled for a special expedition. Each brought their finest weapons and armor, determined to make short work of the Wolverine hunt and move on to more challenging prey. The hunting party moved along a frozen stream, following signals from their advanced tracking equipment. The morning was gray and still, with heavy snow clouds threatening overhead. Their breath formed clouds in the frigid air as they pushed deeper into the forest. Hidden in a camouflaged blind half a mile away, Jake, Sophia, and Rodriguez watched through high-powered scopes. They're heading straight for the den area, Sophia whispered. Wolverines are most aggressive when defending territory. Jake nodded, his expression tense. Let's hope they're as arrogant as they seem. The alien hunters approached a rocky outcropping, their sensors indicating movement within. Zehai gestured for the others to take position, treating this small hunt with unnecessary precision. Life form detected, reported one of the Drakari soldiers. Mass approximately 15 kilograms, showing elevated heart rate and body temperature. Gulther laughed, the sound booming across the snow-covered landscape. Barely a morsel. Let me take this one. I'll add its skull to my collection of disappointments. As the massive Vorax stepped forward, his weapon charged and ready, a dark shape exploded from the rocks. The Wolverine moved with astonishing speed, a blur of muscle and fur against the white snow. The aliens had expected it to flee. Instead, it charged directly at them. Gulther fired his stun weapon, but the Wolverine dodged with uncanny agility. Before the Vorax could fire again, the creature was upon him, targeting the vulnerable joint at his knee. Though only a fraction of Gulther's size, the Wolverine's jaws clamped down with devastating force, tearing through the supposedly impenetrable armor. Gulther roared in pain and surprise, stumbling backward. The other hunters raised their weapons, but the Wolverine was already moving again, launching itself at Kretok of the Mantis Collective. The insectoid hunter tried to bring his plasma rifle to bear, but the Wolverine was too fast. It scrambled up Kretok's torso and began tearing at the connections between his armor plates. Within seconds, the rifle's power coupling was severed, rendering the weapon useless. Impossible, Kretok chittered, trying desperately to dislodge the creature. The representative from the Crystal Worlds moved to assist, confident that his living stone skin would protect him from the Wolverine's attacks. He was wrong. The creature found the gaps between his crystalline plates, clawing and biting at the sensitive tissues beneath. Shards of living crystal fell to the snow as the being retreated in pain. The Void Swimmer attempted to use sonic weapons, but the Wolverine seemed unaffected, driving the aquatic alien back toward a ravine in a panic. Through it all, Zehai watched in disbelief. When the Wolverine finally turned toward him, he activated his energy shield, a barrier that had stopped bullets, energy weapons, and even small explosives in the past. The Wolverine paused, studying the barrier. Then, to Zehai's shock, It began digging. Within moments, it had created a small tunnel beneath the energy field's lower boundary. Before Zehai could react, the creature was inside his defenses, launching itself at the commander's back where his armor was thinnest. From their observation post, the humans watched in amazement as the 6 most powerful hunters in the galaxy broke formation and retreated, leaving behind damaged equipment and drops of various colored blood on the pristine snow. The Wolverine stood its ground, bristling and defiant, watching the aliens flee before returning to its den. "Did that just happen?" Rodriguez whispered, lowering his binoculars in disbelief. Jake nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Evolution beats technology. That Wolverine has been perfecting its hunting and fighting skills for millions of years. Their fancy weapons are no match for that kind of instinct." Sophia was already on the radio, relaying what they'd witnessed to other resistance cells. "This changes everything," she said. "We need to document every small predator encounter, every adaptation our wildlife has that might confound their technology." Back at the Alien Command Center, panic was spreading. Reports of equipment failures and injuries flooded in from all 6 hunting species. The commanders gathered for an emergency meeting, their previous arrogance replaced by confusion and anger. "This is unprecedented," Zehai admitted, wincing as medics treated the deep gashes in his back. "The creature was a fraction of our size, yet it disabled our weapons and penetrated our defenses." "One lucky encounter," Gulther growled, his leg immobilized in a healing field. "Nothing more." But more reports were coming in. A honey badger had destroyed valuable scanning equipment in the Sahara Preserve. Army ants had infiltrated a mantis collective camp in the Amazon, damaging critical systems. A pod of orcas had systematically dismantled underwater hunting platforms near Antarctica. "Earth's predators are adapting to us," Kretok observed. "They're identifying our weaknesses with uncanny precision." What the aliens didn't know was that the resistance network was expanding rapidly. Jake, Sophia, and Rodriguez had shared their observations with groups worldwide. Wherever the alien hunters set up operations, local resistance cells were now guiding Earth's smaller predators toward them, exploiting the aliens' blind spot. The Galactic Hunting Council convened an emergency session aboard Nexus Prime. The 6 hunting species presented their findings, and the debate was heated. "This world harbors predators of unexpected cunning," Zehai reported, his scales dulled with fatigue. "Their size belies their capabilities. The greatest challenge is not their physical strength, but their evolutionary resilience and adaptability, which exceeds our technological countermeasures." After 3 days of deliberation, the Council reached a decision. Earth would be classified as a Zone X, forbidden, with all hunting activities permanently banned. The official report cited unpredictable threats and recommended complete withdrawal. As the alien fleet prepared to depart, Jake stood on a hilltop, overlooking what had been the Drakari Command Center. Beside him, Sophia reviewed data on her tablet. "They're really leaving," she said, wonder in her voice. "All because they couldn't handle our tiny predators." Jake nodded, watching the massive ships rise into the clouds. "They came looking for a challenge, and they found one, just not where they expected." In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. The energy barriers were dismantled, and captured animals were released back into their habitats. The world's governments, recognizing the continuing threat from space, appointed Jake Morrison as the first Director of Interspecies Relations. His first official act was to establish Wolverine conservation areas across the Northern Hemisphere, ensuring the species that had stood against the galaxy's greatest hunters would always have a place on Earth. On his office wall hung a photograph taken by Rodriguez on that fateful day, a Wolverine standing defiantly on blood-stained snow. Beside the discarded armor plate of Commander Zehai, beneath it, a simple caption: "Never underestimate the small." As for the Wolverine that had faced down 6 alien hunters, it returned to its solitary life in the northern forest, completely unaware that it had become a legend, both on Earth and across the stars. It continued to hunt, to defend its territory, and to survive the harsh winters, just as its ancestors had done for millions of years before any visitor from the stars had ever looked down on Earth. In the vast galactic community, Earth gained a new reputation, not as a primitive backwater, but as a world of unexpected dangers, where even the smallest creatures fought with a ferocity that technological superiority could not overcome. Several species established diplomatic relations, approaching with a newfound respect that might never have existed without the lesson taught by a 15-kilogram predator on a snowy morning. Commander Zehai never returned to active hunting. He became an advocate for more thorough research before any planetary expedition, often citing his experience on Earth as a cautionary tale. Size, he would tell young Drakari, is the least important measure of a predator's capability. Respect all life forms, regardless of scale. The Wolverine had no knowledge of any of this. Of course, it simply continued doing what Wolverines had always done, surviving against the odds, facing down threats many times its size, and adapting to whatever challenges came its way. In the end, that was the true lesson. Life, when pushed to its limits, finds a way to push back. And sometimes, the smallest push can topple the mightiest hunter. 2 years after the alien departure, Jake stood at the edge of a snow-covered clearing in northern Canada. Beside him, Sophia pointed to fresh tracks in the snow. "There," she whispered. "Probably the same one." Jake nodded, watching as a dark shape moved confidently across the white landscape. The Wolverine paused, seeming to sense their presence, and looked directly at them. For a moment, human and beast regarded each other, two species that had, in their own ways, defended their home against impossible odds. Then the Wolverine turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving nothing but tracks in the snow to mark its passage. "You know," Jake said quietly, "I sometimes wonder if they'll come back. Try again with better weapons, better armor." Sophia shook her head. "I don't think so. They might have the technology, but we have something they don't understand." "What's that?" "A home worth fighting for," she replied. "And about 1,000,000 species that have been perfecting that fight since long before we humans appeared." Jake smiled, thinking of the Wolverine, the small and the fearless. "Exactly," Sophia agreed. "And that's something no technology in the galaxy can match." As they turned to leave, a single snowflake drifted down from the sky, landing softly on the Wolverine's tracks. One small, perfect crystal, fragile yet intricate, simple yet complex, like the Wolverine itself. It was a reminder that in nature, true power often comes in the most unexpected packages. The alien hunters had learned this lesson the hard way. They had come seeking the thrill of the hunt, confident in their superiority. Instead, they had discovered that on Earth, even the smallest predator could become the most formidable opponent when defending its territory. It was a lesson the galaxy would not soon forget. Jake and Sophia made their way back to their vehicle, leaving the forest and its guardian undisturbed. Behind them, more snowflakes began to fall, gradually erasing all traces of their presence. The Wolverine's territory returned to silence, peaceful yet vigilant, ready, as always, to defend itself against whatever threat might next appear from beyond the stars. For on Earth, the small had learned to become mighty, and the mighty had learned to respect the small. It was a balance as old as life itself, and it would continue long after the brief visit from the stars was forgotten by all except those who had witnessed it firsthand. In the endless cosmos, with its countless worlds and species, there would always be hunters seeking glory. But now, at least, they knew one world to approach with caution, a blue planet where even the smallest defenders had proven themselves worthy of the greatest respect. As Jake started the engine, he glanced back one last time at the forest. For a moment, he thought he caught a glimpse of dark fur against white snow, but it might have been just a shadow. Either way, he knew the Wolverine was there, continuing its ancient patterns, indifferent to its cosmic significance. And somehow, that made the victory all the more perfect. The hunting ships had departed. The alien technology had failed. And in the end, it was Earth's oldest defense that had prevailed. The unyielding spirit of life itself, embodied in the form of a small, fierce predator that refused to back down. The Wolverine's stand had become more than just a battle won. It had become a reminder of a fundamental truth that the galaxy's most advanced species had somehow forgotten. That true strength is not measured in size or technology, but in the will to survive against all odds. It was a lesson written in tracks on the snow, in claw marks on alien armor, and in the newfound respect with which the galaxy now regarded the third planet from an unremarkable star. A lesson as simple and as powerful as the Wolverine itself. The alien hunters never returned to Earth. They found other worlds to challenge their skills, other prey to test their weapons against. But none of them ever again made the mistake of judging a predator by its size alone. And on Earth, life continued as it always had, adapting, evolving, surviving. The Wolverine hunted in its territory, oblivious to its place in history. Humans rebuilt what had been damaged and prepared for whatever might come next from the stars. Jake Morrison, in his role as Director of Interspecies Relations, eventually established contact with several galactic civilizations, negotiating treaties that recognized Earth's unique biological heritage as worthy of protection. In every meeting, the image of the Wolverine stood behind him, a small guardian that had, for one brief moment, represented the indomitable spirit of an entire world. It was a spirit that could not be measured in kilograms or firepower. It could only be measured in courage, in tenacity, and in the fierce determination to stand one's ground, no matter the odds. In the end, that was what had saved Earth. Not technology or weapons or size, but the simple, unyielding refusal of life, in all its forms, to surrender what was rightfully its own. The Wolverine had shown the way. The rest of Earth had followed. And the galaxy had learned to listen. Years later, long after the events had passed into legend, a new generation would look up at the stars and wonder what might be out there. But they did so, not with fear, but with confidence, knowing that even the smallest among them carried within them the same spirit that had once faced down the greatest hunters the galaxy had to offer. The spirit of the Wolverine, small but fearless, outmatched but undaunted, standing its ground, come what may. The true measure of strength. Zahai's personal log, recovered years later from abandoned Drakari equipment, contained a final entry about Earth. It read simply, "We came seeking worthy prey. We found it, though not where we expected." The lesson was costly but valuable. Never confuse size with significance. On Earth, even the small are mighty. Beneath these words was a crude sketch of a Wolverine, its stance defiant, ready to face whatever came next. Just as it always had been. Just as it always would be. Small, but undefeated.